Hi guys, this is lesson 7.1. I'm going to demonstrate the homework problems for you. The first one says, write x to the third times x squared without exponents. And so in this case, it's kind of a pain, but what it means is x to the third is x times x, that's x times x, so there's x to the third, times, now we have to do x squared, so we have x times x. So x to the third is x times x times x, and x squared is x times x. When we multiply them together, we end up with x times x times x times x times x. And when we want to write that in a nicer way with exponents, we are just going to show with the exponent that there are really 5. So we can see that we actually add those exponents together. In number 2, we want to simplify this. We have a whole lot of u's happening. We have u times u to the 4th times u to the 5th. That first u there that has no number on it is actually a 1. And so we are going to do u to the 1 plus 4 plus 5 and show that there are 10 u's. U to the 1 and then u to the 4th, that makes 5 of them, and then 5 more for u to the 5th. All right, we want to multiply negative 3v to the 8th times 9v. The commutative property of multiplication says that I can change this around in an order that I want it to be. So I'm actually going to start this by multiplying the negative 3 times the 9. Negative 3 times 9 gives me a negative 27. And then I'm doing v to the 8th times v, which is really v to the 1. And so if I put a v here, I can put the exponent 9 to show 9 v's there. I actually do 8 plus 1 to show that there are 9. Okay, this is a mess. And so I'm going to again use the commutative property and straighten this out a little bit. Find all the numbers. There's 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3 is 27. So if I multiply all the 3's together, I'll get 27. And then let's look for all the x's. There's x to the 5th, and there's x to the 8th. So I am going to show that there is x to the, there are 5 and there are 8, so 5 plus 8 is 13. There we go. And then I'm going to find all the w's. There's a w with no exponent, so that means w to the 1, and there's a w to the 7th. So I have 1 plus 7 is w to the 8th. That looks better. Okay, now I have a power on a power. I have b squared to the 3rd. If I have to write this without exponents, I am actually going to need to write b squared, which is b times b, and I need to write that 3 times. So that's written once, so now I'm going to put it twice. There's 2 b squared and b squared, and I need to write that one more time. So I have b squared, b times b, times b times b, times b times b. So a nicer way of being able to write that is b to the 6th. So the rule is that if I have a power on a power, I actually end up multiplying 2 times 3 to show that there will end up being 6 b's. W to the 4th to the 4th. I don't have to write out w to the 4th 4 times, thank goodness, but I can do w to the 4 times 4 is 16. There will be 16 of them if I write w to the 4th 4 times. 6y squared. Notice that the squared is on the outside of the parentheses, so I have 6y times 6y. And so each of these little pieces, the 6 and the y, are actually going to get affected by that exponent. So if I have 6y times 6y, I have 6 times 6 is 36. And then I have y times y, which is y squared. Now I have negative 2ab squared to the 5th. I need to put that 5th power on top of each part of this. So I have negative 2 to the 5th, I have a to the 5th, and I have b squared to the 5th. And simplifying this, every time I have an odd exponent, an odd number, so a 1, a 3, a 5, a 7, a 9, any odd number, that means I am going to have a negative result. So I do negative 2 5 times in a row, I'm going to end up with a negative number. This is negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. So this is 4. This is negative 8. This is positive 16. This is negative 32. So I can anticipate the negative by knowing that it's an odd number. Odd number times always come out negative. I just have to figure out what the actual 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is, which is 32. Okay, a to the 5th is fine the way it is, but b squared 5 times in a row is going to give me b to the 2 times 5, which is b to the 10th. So I have negative 32, a to the 5th, b to the 10th. Let's see if I can do that. Negative 32, a to the 5th, b to the 10th. And the last one here, look at all those exponents. Okay, so let's undo this part first because there's a power on the outside of the parentheses. There's no power right there. So I'm just going to keep this the way it is while I work on the other part. So to undo that third power on the outside, each piece of this gets third powered, right? So x squared to the third power, y to the third power, and z to the third power. All right, so I can simplify this up a little bit more, still keeping my first set intact there. Negative 2 to the 3rd. There's an odd number again, so my end answer is going to be negative, and 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. So that's an 8. X squared 3 times. I'm going to multiply that to get x to the 6th. Y to the 3rd 3 times is going to give me y to the 9th. Power on a power, I multiply, and z to the 3rd is fine the way it is. Okay, let's combine things here. I have a negative 3 and an 8. And negative 3 times 8 is negative 24. Okay, let's look for x's. I have x to the 3rd and x to the 6th. So 3 plus 6 is x to the 9th. All right, let's look for y's. I have y to the 3rd and y to the 9th. Y to the 3 plus 9 is 12. And let's look for the z. Z, is that a squared? I guess that's a squared. And z to the 3rd gives me z to the 2 plus 3 is 5. Be careful. Z squared, z to the 3rd. Remember, we have 2 z's here and 3 z's here. We're not multiplying those, we are adding them. Okay, this is going to be more than I can probably remember to put in the answers. And I don't have scrap paper. Here we go. Negative 24, x to the 9th, y to the 12th, z to the 5th. Negative 24, x to the 9th, y to the, excuse me, 12th, and z to the 5th. Check. Oh, and I have made a mistake or typed something wrong. Let me see here. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. And that was negative, times negative. I bet -3 times -8 was supposed to be positive. That may be my only mistake. It was. Those darn negatives, watch out for them, right? Okay, so that's lesson 7-1. Let me know if you get hung up on any of those. Hopefully this is helpful.